Hi, everybody. I'm Dennis Daly. I spent 20 years with United Press International, most of it with the old UPI radio network. And my favorite assignment was going on the road producing and hosting American Montage. It was an hour-long weekly program. Now here's an edited version of one of those shows. Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's program. We come to you on the road this week, but not very far from UPI studios in Los Angeles. We are at a very popular intersection in downtown Hollywood. No, it's not the intersection of Hollywood and Vine. It's the intersection of Sunset and Vine. Even though Hollywood and Vine is what the tourists think of as the heart of Hollywood, for decades, Sunset and Vine was the real heart of activity. And for decades, a jovial man named Demetrius Harris worked in a record store there. And this is his story this week. I know Demetrius Harris as Jimmy Harris. I've known him for about a year now. He lives in the same apartment complex I live in. We got talking many months ago about how Hollywood has changed over the years, and I came to realize that he was at the busy heart of it for decades, a buyer in what at that time was the world's largest record store. Decades ago, there were not mega record stores as there are now, but mom-and-pop stores across the nation, and one huge one in downtown Los Angeles. Some of the biggest came in there every day, and they like to talk to tourists.
Bing Crosby, Bob Hope, everybody was there. And also there was a little coffee shop next door where everybody went for breakfast and lunch. And all the songwriters were in there, and all the singers were there, and all the band leaders were there. I mean, it was a mecca for everything you can think of. That was Hollywood, was on Vine Street between Sunset and Hollywood Boulevard. They had beautiful nightclubs on that street. What I didn't like about it, I was a jazz enthusiast. You know, to have the modern jazz quartet play in one of those clubs, it would cost I can understand the owner too. It would cost the owner a couple of $1,000s to get the modern jazz quartet in there. Mm-hmm. But to get two kids in there that didn't know how to sing, didn't know how to play guitar, but it sounded a little like Elvis Presley, and they gave them the minimum, which was, I think, $75 then.
And they raked up.
And they jammed the place. Now, if you're an owner, you don't care whether, it's culturally terrific, like the modern jazz quartet. You just want to know how much money is coming in that till. And it was the little kids, 18, 19 years old. They used to bring him in. So all of a sudden, you never saw any of the big names on Vine Street anymore. You saw all these young kids that were Elvis Presley lookalikes.
All rock and roll.
All rock and roll.
Of the people who came into Music City, who were your favorites? Of the stars who came in?
Of course, Orson Welles.
Mm.
He was a giant. And that's what made me go into directing, is because of Orson Welles. And but I didn't bother him when he came in, because I know they don't like to be bothered. But he came in and just looked at all the new releases, and was a perfect gentleman. Because I saw Citizen Kane on Okinawa, and that got me into it. I was going to go back as a history major to University of Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. So instead of doing that, I went to the Academy Theater of Arts and became a director in Philadelphia. And that's what brought me out here. And I never did anything out here. So I had to get a job, and I got a job in Music City.
Some of the other stars who came through there, I remember before going on the air, we were talking about some of them. You were talking about what a wonderful gentleman Nat King Cole was.
Oh, terrific. Terrific. I don't care how bad he felt. Well, you can't be 100% every day. He was always tops. Nicest guy, one of the nicest guys. And also a guy that used to be a singer for Ray Anthony, Ronnie Doble, became one of my best friends. And he was a terrific singer. He had a voice, but the trouble with that is that Sinatra, he tried to sing like Sinatra, and he can't do it.
Only one Sinatra.
He had a deeper voice than Sinatra, but there's only one Sinatra. You got to remember that. Right below Sunset Boulevard on Vine Street, two kids ran into him, and they hit his car, and he got out and looked at it, and he wasn't hurt. And His car wasn't damaged too much. He said, just forget it, because they were just high school kids and didn't have insurance. So the next day we met him in Coffee Dan's, and we're sitting with him when all of a sudden he collapsed, and we took him to Cedar Sinai.
Mm-hmm.
And we took him there, and they checked him out, and nobody saw anything wrong with him. And as we were leaving, in the lobby of the hospital, he collapsed. And it was because it was a terrific young intern, diagnosed it right away, and put him in an iron tank. He could have died right there. Put him in an iron tank and saved his life.
So it was something got pinched, or?
Well, there was a pinched nerve, and they never did find it. They couldn't find it. But for the rest of his life, he was paralyzed from the waist down.
Wow. It must have been fun to go to work at a place where you never knew who was going to come in next.
You never went in the midst of that because you never knew who was going to be in there. And it was always a fun job. It was the worst paying job I've ever had as a buyer of the biggest record store in the world. And I was ashamed to tell. And when I went to my next job with Sid Letterman, Worcester and La Cienega, he asked me, you were the buyer for the biggest record store in the world. Well, how much did they pay you? I said, Sid, don't ask me. I'm ashamed to tell you how much I made. And he said, please tell me. What did you? I said, $75. He said, Demetrius, let me tell you. He says, my lowest paid employee is $150. Do you mind getting double your pay? Because I have a buyer, but I can use you on the counter, if you don't mind. I said, no. I said, for double my salary, sure.
Well, since this was a store open to everybody,
absolutely,
you had a lot of cases in which tourists in from out of town would suddenly realize that they're standing next to Tony Bennett or something. Right. What was that experience like, seeing the people from Kansas or whatever realize that these are stars?
They were in all. You know, they're the same people that were on Hollywood Boulevard buying maps to go and find their homes in Beverly Hills or Bel Air. And here they were right in the open. And farmers in those days, also farmers market on 3rd and Fairfax. You could always see 20 or 30 big-name stars there every day for breakfast or for lunch. You know, it was every day.
When did the real Hollywood community die? The 70s?
I think in the 70s.
Because I remember interviewing Cesar Romero about, obviously before he died, but he said that the sad thing was that there was no Hollywood anymore.
No.
That all of his friends lived in Wyoming or New York.
Well, a lot of the studios left. A lot of what the Mecca wasn't only the studios. It was the recording outfits like Capitol Records. The guys had to come and record. Sinatra had to come and record. So they would come into Music City, and they would come into Coffee Dance or the Brown Derby. The Brown Derby was a big place then. That's where Clark Gable proposed to Carole Lombard in that.
And this was all just within a 2 or 3 block area.
Between Hollywood and then all the way down to, it used to go all the way down to where the Ranch Market, it's still there, but nobody goes in there now. I mean, no big names. And it used to be, you go shopping, excuse me, and it'd be Weston Wells or Franchot Tone or whoever was there.
Well, now, were people like Jack Benny and George Burns, were they out and around?
Even Eddie Kaner came in. He came in '54, I believe it was. But he had a stroke or something, and he could hardly move. But he was a very nice man, and also Jack Benny. Jack Benny was an extremely nice man. Also, one of my favorites was Betty Davis. A sweetheart. She'd do anything. She was so nice when she used to come in, or in the Coffee Dance. Always, anything you wanted to do, she would do it.
Jimmy, this has been great fun. You have told us about an era that will never be back there.
It's gone.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
And there you have it, another edited episode of one of the American Montage programs prepared for the UPI radio network back in the 1980s and 90s. I'm Dennis Daly. Thanks for listening. Thanks for going with me this week. And check YouTube for more American Montage programs.